Bucket, or also known as aerial lift trucks, have been used in just about every industry for many years. Not only are they effective, but are also highly flexible in the numerous jobs they can safely perform. As useful as this equipment is, each type can contain its own inherent risks and hazards. The most common are falls and electrocution. Serious injuries and deaths have occurred in construction, mining, tree trimming, public works, and firefighting, to name a few. For example, a fire captain with 25 years of service was killed when his bucket lift came too close to power lines. An electric arc jumped to the equipment, electrocuting the captain and badly injuring the other firefighters. In another case, a highway worker became caught between his lift and an overhead sign when the driver advanced forward, pinning the worker. Unfortunately, the worker was not wearing fall protection and fell to the ground. He died a few days later from head injuries. In still another case, an experienced lineman was killed in a bucket when a wire in his hand made contact with a 7,200-volt line. It was determined that he was not wearing protective gloves, and the truck's grounding equipment was not used. Of course, bucket trucks are used to elevate personnel to tasks above the ground. Some examples might include extendable boom platforms, aerial ladders, articulating boom truck platforms, and any combination or variation as well. Aerial lifts and bucket systems may be constructed of metal, wood, fiberglass, reinforced plastic, or other materials. However, the most common material is generally fiberglass. Let's clear the air on a subject that far too frequently gets forgotten or ignored. Only properly trained and authorized employees are permitted to operate bucket trucks. Failure to do so can result in injury or death. Employees must be trained in the use and operation of the actual equipment they will be operating. Supervisors have a key responsibility to keep untrained employees from using any type of aerial bucket or lift. Employees authorized to use bucket trucks must have received training in accordance with the manufacturer's operating instructions. By the way, training must include hands-on instruction with the actual equipment the employee will be operating. We must be aware that the potential for electrocution exists whenever bucket trucks are operated in the vicinity of energized electrical utility lines. This includes overhead lines, house drops, cable and telephone circuits that can be energized with enough voltage to kill. You may be asking yourself, heck, I'm working on cable or telephone lines, so I'm safe, right? Wrong. Electricity may be accidentally transmitted from high voltage lines to cable or phone by incidental contact a long distance away from where you're working. Electricity can even travel through moisture accumulated on a fiberglass bucket, and boom! The insulated portion of an aerial lift must never be altered in any manner that might reduce its insulating value. Be sure that employees standing on the ground know not to touch the vehicle or any of its attachments when working around electricity. You must spend the time necessary to read and gain a thorough understanding of the regulatory requirements associated with your type of bucket truck. Generally, the regulations are quite extensive, so be sure to carefully read the standards in their entirety. Be especially aware of safe operating distances listed in the tables within the regulation. When working in bucket trucks, it is crucial to maintain a safe distance from energized power lines and related parts. Be sure to refer to the equipment manual, warning labels, and instructions affixed to your truck. Since bucket trucks differ enough from manufacturer to manufacturer, even experienced workers should never operate equipment that they are unfamiliar with. Again, employees must be trained specifically on the equipment they will be using. Never exceed the manufacturer's load limits for boom or bucket load. This means do not use your boom as a crane. Buckets, or baskets, are generally required to be at least 39 inches deep to put the lip above the waists of most workers and reduce the risk of falling out. Even though working in a bucket, you are still required to wear a fall restraint system that is attached to the bucket. Fall arrest equipment must be used by employees working at elevated locations more than 4 feet above the ground. Be aware, extended booms and buckets can be subject to sway or recoil during work activities, especially should a tree limb or other item come into contact with the boom. Personal fall arrest systems must be rigged so an employee can neither free fall more than 6 feet nor make physical contact at any lower level. Fall arrest, fall restraint equipment must be thoroughly inspected by a competent person before each use. Look for cuts, holes, tears, abrasions, frays, burns, chemical damage, and other signs of wear. Examine fall protection hardware such as D-rings and snap hooks to make sure they are in proper working order. It is important to know that whenever a fall arrest system prevents a fall, it must be examined by a competent person and certified sound before it is reused. In fact, in some cases, it must be taken out of service and or sent to the manufacturer for evaluation and repairs. Bucket trucks carry specific safety features such as guards, outriggers, ground fault interrupter circuits, and warning labels. This equipment and warning labels are designed to help prevent injuries and may not be modified or removed. In fact, when labels become worn or illegible, they should be replaced with fresh labels. All employees are required to wear the personal protective equipment provided with each bucket truck operation, such as ANSI-approved hard hat. This type of hard hat is designed to prevent the flow of electricity through the hard hat to the head. No metal hard hats are allowed. Eye protection, hearing protection, and fall restraint or arrest systems would also be necessary. Arc flash insulated and rated gloves and clothing or other equipment such as a shock stick might be required when working around electricity. Upon arrival on site, always set the brakes and position the outriggers on pads or similar surfaces. If the ground is soft, use backing plates or blocks to prevent sinking in the soil. Wheel chocks might be necessary for additional stability. Take the time to accurately level and plumb the vehicle according to the manufacturer's instructions. You may be thinking, why is this necessary? Keep in mind that most roads have a crown, or the vehicle may be parked in a location where leveling is required to provide a stable platform. Bucket trucks require care and frequent inspection to ensure proper operation and safety. Before driving the bucket truck, perform a walk-around inspection to make sure the boom is cradled and tied down, and all other equipment is secure. Never move a bucket truck with the boom in an elevated position. Be sure to check tire condition, lights and beacons, vehicle fluid levels, outriggers pads and leveling systems, brake and emergency brake systems, hydraulic lubrication, structural and mechanical integrity, boom and boom rests, and electrical safety devices. Check that controls are clearly marked as to their function. Check the condition of traffic control devices. Carefully check the condition of all fall protection, electrical gloves, and other protective equipment. Do not forget about the first aid kit, fire extinguisher, and any other emergency equipment. Sounds like a long list. Well, it is, and for good reason. Each of the items to be checked can be critical to your personal safety. So take the time necessary to conduct your inspection in a professional and careful manner. Be sure to use the three-point climbing technique such as 2 hands and 1 foot, or 2 feet and 1 hand in contact with ladder rungs or other handholds at all times. Any concerns found during an inspection must be reported to your supervisor and corrected before the equipment is operated. When arriving at the job, take the time to survey the site prior to positioning the truck to perform work. Look for and avoid hazards that may set the stage for a tip-over. The truck should have the emergency brake applied and wheels chalked. Outrigger pads may be necessary to assure firm footing. When extending or retracting the outriggers, verify that all workers are outside the danger zone. When working in the street, be sure to set up traffic control as required for a safe work zone. Be sure that standard hand signals have been established to ensure that all workers are on the same page when working. Personnel must remove all climbers or gaffes or unnecessary metal objects in order to minimize electrocution risk. Ensure that fall arrest equipment is properly attached to anchor points supplied by the bucket truck manufacturer. Belting off to other objects or structures could be dangerous. Be sure that the accompanying shock-absorbing lanyard is attached at the center of the wearer's back between the shoulder blades of the harness. While performing work, the employee must remain boxed in. Stand firmly on the floor with both feet, not sitting or climbing on the bucket lip, and never leaning out or overreaching from the bucket. If trimming trees, be sure to use standard cutting techniques to ensure that you have control of the limb and that no accidents occur to people or equipment under the area. Aerial lift equipment may not be moved when the boom is elevated in a working position with men in the basket, except for equipment which is specifically designed for this type of operation. Except in the case of an emergency, attending personnel may not operate lower controls unless permission has been obtained from the employee in the elevated platform. Be sure to take note of the location of co-workers on the ground prior to lowering the boom to avoid striking any employees working below. Articulating boom and extendable boom platforms, primarily designed as personnel carriers, usually have both platform, or upper, and lower controls. Controls should be plainly marked as to their function and be within easy reach of the operator. Before the truck is moved for highway travel, aerial equipment must be secured in the lower traveling position by a locking device or by other equally effective means. As with all equipment, maintenance is critical. There are many parts of an aerial lift that will require maintenance only by trained personnel. It should be noted that aerial lifts may not be field modified for use other than intended by the manufacturer. Doing so could compromise the integrity of the equipment. In addition, vehicle and platform maintenance records must be maintained by the organization in the event they are needed for an investigation or regulatory review. If work cannot be performed in a safe and approved manner using the bucket truck, it should be stopped, re-evaluated, and a safe way to work determined. If a worker is injured in the bucket or falls sustaining injuries, call 911 immediately. Emergency numbers should be posted in all bucket trucks near the dashboard. Be sure to report your location as accurately as possible for emergency responders. Well, as you have seen, there is a lot to know about aerial lifts and bucket trucks. This short presentation cannot possibly provide you with all the information you need. That is why it is critical to acquire additional formal training from your supervisor. Thank you.